Welcome to our series condemning nationalism worldwide. In this series, we aim to challenge the conventional narratives surrounding historical figures who have been glorified as heroes. In this episode, we turn our lens towards Saladin Ayyubid, the conqueror of Jerusalem. If you're interested in a humanistic evaluation of Saladin and the impacts of his legacy in today's world, figuring out if he was a hero or a zero, stay tuned, because it's coming up. Growing up in Africa, we were fed tales of Saladin's bravery and chivalry in his wars against the Crusaders. He was portrayed as a heroic figure for liberating Jerusalem from the Crusaders. And then we would ask why a city is so important that it was worth sparking numerous wars. And the only answer we would get was that, "Oh, Jerusalem was the first Qibla for us Muslims. Our Prophet got on a donkey and ascended to heaven from there. So it's a holy land." Then we would say, "Oh, that's so miraculous." While indeed we should have said, that's so crapulous. Yes, a sacred land, that accusation of it is worth bloodshed. How fantastically justified. But was Saladin that hero that they built in our minds? A gracious hero who also showed mercy to his enemies? As we matured and studied history more objectively, we realized how misguided these glorified nationalist and Islamist accounts were and how far they were from modern humanistic values. Setting aside religious bias and pan-Arabist fervor, we began to see the discrepancies in the narratives fed to us by our parents, teachers, and official outlets. At English Rumi, we believe a historical figure deserves appreciation only if their doctrine or teachings truly uplifted humanity's wisdom and consciousness as a whole. To make a fair assessment of Saladin, we must look beyond the romanticized myths and explore the darker realities documented in historical chronicles. Saladin's path to power was paved with ruthless ambition. Born into prominent Kurdish family in 1137 CE in present-day Kurdistan of Iraq, Saladin developed an early interest in military skills like swordsmanship and dagger fighting. His father, Najmuddin Ayyub, was a respected governor of the city Baalbek in present-day Lebanon. Saladin served as a governor under the influential Nuruddin Zengi before accompanying his uncle Shirkuh in 1164 on a mission supposedly to help restore Shawar as the vizier to the teenage Fatimid Caliph Al-Adid in Egypt. However, a power struggle soon arose between Shirkuh and Shawar, leading to Shawar's murder on Shirkuh's orders and reportedly by Saladin. Shortly after, when Shirkuh himself died in 1169, the ambitious Saladin took his place as vizier of Egypt. Outwardly supporting the Egyptian Caliph Al-Adid, Saladin was covertly plotting to overthrow the Shiite Fatimid government and establish Sunni rule. In consolidating his position, Saladin began to sideline Al-Adid and other Fatimid elites and regiments, lots of them being black Africans. This approach by Saladin provoked the uprising of the black African troops who formed the backbone of the Fatimid army. When these 50,000 troops rebelled in August 1169, Saladin brutally suppressed them. He ordered attacks on the homes and families of the black soldiers in their quarter outside Cairo to break the resistance. After defeating them, Saladin disbanded all the black military units while incorporating white Fatimid soldiers, a racial subjugation and discrimination celebrated by Arab sources of the time. Being an extremely power-hungry and opportunistic man, Saladin distributed land and property to his friends and relatives during his viziership to ensure support for his planned coup. When the Shiite Caliph Al-Adid fell severely ill, Saladin seized the moment, influencing the speaker at Friday prayers to suddenly announce the Sunni Abbasid Caliph Al-Mustadi as the new caliph, leading to the downfall of the Fatimid dynasty in 1171. After establishing his dominance on the whole Egypt, Saladin executed the last Fatimid caliph and his entire family in 1171, ending the Fatimid Caliphate. This politically calculated move realigned Egypt under the Sunni Abbasids, reflecting Saladin's fundamentalist Sunni orthodoxy over the Ismaili Shia Fatimids he had overthrown. Saladin did not limit his necktie party only to ex-troops or ex-royals in Egypt. Viewing the teachings of the influential Sufi mystic Qarid al-Qafas in Alexandria as a threat to religious orthodoxy, Saladin ordered his arrest in 1174. This was one of the early signs of his intolerance towards dissenting voices. The eventual fate of Qarid is unknown. Moreover, his campaign to uproot Ismaili Shia influence extended beyond just political elimination. Saladin ordered the sacking and destruction of the famed Fatimid libraries and schools in Egypt, which contained countless precious manuscripts on Ismaili philosophy, sciences, and history. Many unique Ismaili literary works were burned or dumped into the Nile River in this cultural obliteration. Furthermore, to eliminate a potential rival claimant to power in Syria, Saladin had the young Al-Malik As-Salih Ismail, son of his former master Nur ad-Din Zengi, executed in 1176, solidifying his own control over Syria. Concurrently, as he consolidated Syria in the 1170s, Saladin brutally suppressed the Ismaili Shia sect under Fatimid influence, attacking their fortresses and exiling many, driven by his Islamic fundamentalism against perceived heresy. After his pivotal victory over the Crusaders at the Battle of Hattin in 1187, Saladin ordered the brutal execution of 200 to 230 captured Templar and Hospitaller knights. The chronicler Imad ad-Din vividly described him watching joyfully as the knights were beheaded one by one. Additionally, he personally executed Renard de Chatillon after Hattin, who had previously attacked Muslim caravans despite truces, a show of uncompromising ruthlessness. While Muslim chroniclers like Baha'u'd-Din lavishly praised Saladin's chivalry in allowing civilian populations to leave Jerusalem safely after paying ransom, such accounts must be viewed through a critical lens, as their glorification of Saladin's mercy is likely tainted by religious bias and bigotry of that era. In reality, his insistence on extracting hefty ransoms from released Crusader captives and imposing the jizya tax on non-Muslims allowed to remain in Jerusalem was simply pragmatic economic exploitation, permissible under Islamic laws of war. Moreover, the Quran itself provides divine sanction for taking captive women as concubines. So Saladin's clemency towards wives of executed knights was likely contingent on their subjugation as servants or sexual slaves to Muslim men, not genuine benevolence. He also had a large number of captured Crusader foot soldiers executed after Hattin, and his forces also engaged in widespread looting and destruction across Palestine, leading up to Jerusalem's fall in 1187. During his advance through Galilee that summer, his troops plundered and burned the city of Tiberias to the ground. Moreover, while celebrated for mercy towards Christian nobles, Saladin frequently authorized the slaughter of ordinary Christians and non-combatants in captured cities across 1187 to 1192. His camp was accompanied by Bedouin tribesmen who engaged in indiscriminate killing, looting, and enslavement of peasants. So his limited mercy seems politically calculated, portraying himself as magnanimous compared to the Crusaders who committed many uncalculated massacres. This would demoralize resistance and foster acquiescence and conformity among newly conquered populations in 1187. By appearing merciful at times, Saladin likely aimed to solidify control by buying loyalty from inhabitants resigned to his rule as the lesser evil. During the Third Crusade in 1191, when Richard the Lionheart executed Muslim prisoners. At Ayyubid, Saladin retaliated by executing his own Christian prisoners in brutal fashion. That same year, the influential mystic philosopher Suhrawardy was sentenced to death on charges of heresy in Aleppo after constant execution orders from Saladin by influential Islamic clerics of the time, who viewed Suhrawardy's teachings as a threat. While Saladin's son, Al-Malik al-Zahir, was the governor of Aleppo at that time, he was initially reluctant to carry out his father's orders against the admired Suhrawardy. However, Saladin eventually threatened to remove al-Zahir from the government of Syria if he did not execute the philosopher on charges of heresy on promoting botany or mystical esoteric teachings. Before we sum up, let's examine Saladin's legacy and his lineage after his death. Saladin appointed his favorite son, Al-Aziz Uthman, being his second son, as Sultan of Egypt, potentially grooming him as the ultimate successor to rule his entire inherited kingdom. A notable aspect of Uthman's reign was his attempted destruction of the Great Pyramids in Egypt. Why did he undertake this? Well, like father, like son, Uthman was a dogmatic Sunni Muslim too. To this highly regressive Neanderthal, the ancient pyramids seemed at odds with his religious beliefs as they predated Islam. So he ordered the pyramids demolished in 1196. However, after 8 months of fruitless efforts, he realized demolishing them would be as expensive as their original construction. Do you remember when we were arrogant kids, our parents used to tell us, "A hard head makes a soft ass"? Uthman abandoned the project, leaving a vertical gash on the northern side of the Pyramid of Menkaure. Such treatment of ancient heritage by Saladin's brat echoes the Taliban's destruction of the Bamiyan Buddhas in Afghanistan and ISIS' demolition of Palmyra's ruins, all driven by extremist zeal against perceived idolatry or ideological threats. There are also accounts of him persecuting the philosopher Ibn Rushd or Averroes and banning his writings in Egypt due to their rationalist interpretations conflicting with conventional Islam. In conclusion, though celebrated as a chivalrous warrior, Saladin's reign was marked by brutal suppression of political rivals, religious minorities like the Ismailis, and dissenting thinkers who threatened his Sunni Orthodox authority. His desire for ideological and political uniformity often manifested in harsh crackdowns. Our analysis should not be dismissed as mere historical entertainment, though. Portraying brutal dictators as national or religious heroes risks inspiring future totalitarian regimes that threaten global peace. In contemporary times, we witnessed the rise of dictators across the region, consciously or unconsciously, following Saladin's example. Khomeini, Gaddafi, and Saddam Hussein frequently invoked the idea of liberating Al-Quds or Jerusalem as an emblem to raise their status and rally Arab nationalist and Islamist support among the masses, while implementing policies and military buildups mirroring Saladin's conquests. Hussein, during his rule in Iraq, admired Saladin and drew parallels between himself and Saladin. A children's book in 1980s Baghdad even referred to him as Saladin too. Ironically though, both Saladin and Saddam killed more Muslims than non-Muslims. Saladin executed 40,000 Shiites in Egypt alone in one afternoon. The Iran-Iraq war, initiated by Hussein, killed around 2 million Muslims, while Hussein killed or executed 200,000 opposing Kurds and 5,000 Kuwaitis. Unfortunately, even today, major Arab cities have streets named after Saladin, memorializing him. There is also a Turkish series about Saladin currently airing. The portrayal of Saladin in the series does not fully align with historical records and tend to romanticize all his actions and decisions. Shockingly, in 2017, in Qalqilia, West Bank, Palestinian activists erected a monument hailing Saddam Hussein as the master of all martyrs. It could have been more right, though, to hail his ass as the master of all butchers. Hussein remains popular among some Palestinians for firing Scud missiles at Israel in 1991, though they killed only dozens of Israelis for indirect causes like incorrect use of gas masks, heart attacks, and improper administration of the anti-chemical weapon drugs during missile strikes. Yes, my friends, it's time we reconsider our perception of history and our narratives of the heroes we extract from it. I don't think Germans idolize Hitler, do they? Or do French idealize Napoleon? I'm sure lots of them don't. Anyhow, after examining Saladin's brutal record of violence and suppression, even against his fellow Muslims, we can confidently stamp Saladin's disgusting forehead with a decisive 0, without a shred of doubt.
Good for you, Glenn. Rub it all over your disgusting face.
Let us know your thoughts on this humanistic analysis challenging nationalist narratives that are dividing humanity into competing ethnic and religious factions, rather than bringing us together as one united, adaptive, and coexisting whole. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights. Oh, before I forget, let me stamp Hussein's butt with a 0 stamp too, sending him to the dustbin of history beside his idol, Saladin. Until next time, peace.